Because you know what happens is you always have like bands, any of our favorite bands, they always like make a record, and then the next record they went to the studio to make it with a great producer, and it's ass, right? And you're like, why did they do the other record?
Right.
I'd really like that to stay. So we just will never do that.
So yeah, well, that touches on something. Like, you guys have produced your own stuff, right? I mean, who did you just like put microphones in front of things, and or, I mean, how is it that you kind of learned how to do all that?
Have you heard Silver? It's like,
Charles has had the patience to do it. I mean, we've all sat there and kind of cheered him on, but to read all the stuff and figure it out. And you know, some people just have a mind that can do it. And some of us can barely turn on a tape recorder.
Except when you're bombed.
Or use a cell phone. Yeah, except when you're drunk.
yeah, cell phones.
I see.
Yeah.
And so I think I speak for many people when I say, okay, this next time round, do us all a favor and put something closer to the microphone so that you can actually hear lyrics above, like, guitars and shit.
But you know, it draws you in. It's bringing you in.
So how is it that you guys kind of decided on, you know, your sound or whatnot? And
We just do whatever Wilco's doing. You know, it's. I mean, over 20 years, it's there's so many things that come into play over time. You know, your original, whatever your original things are. You know, your original like influences and all that kind of stuff, and then.
It's also a conscious thing too. Yeah, we really say, "Oh, that's your David Bowie song. Knock it off." It's way too close. And then, yeah, we're the worst. It's hard. It's like the hardest group to bring in new songs.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
They're a
it's
slay master. It's like, no. It's like, I worked on it forever. It's like, click, delete.
Why? Because it's your David Bowie song? Really?
Or whatever, you know. You're like,
I know, but I'm saying like that's just funny. So
that happens a lot, you know.
Really?
Oh, sure.
So what did
Jerry's
Z
the
come
drummer.
up?
He is the worst offender. He does nothing. He doesn't even carry his sticks. All drummers, you're all crazy. If you play the drums, you're nuts. But anyway, he cancels more songs than any of us.
How does that work in terms of
He just says, I hate it. He just wants everything to sound like the Foo Fighters. Because he's a drummer.
how does
So
that
if it's
work?
not like rocking, he hates it.
Do you guys have like a collective decision-making thing amongst yourselves?
Sadly, yes.
Really?
Amongst ourselves. I decide. And then you try to convince somebody else.
Yeah, there's general
lobbying,
consensus.
there's money involved.
There always ends up being a couple that get recorded because one person's really like, no, this is going to work, trust me. And sometimes it actually does pan out, but it's usually also just like it just comes together. A given song comes together. So you're like, well, clearly we would have recorded this because it's feeling better than this other one.
Right.
You know, and you can argue for the other one, and you can even record it, but then your work is cut out for you because the version that it's like having custom tailoring done after the thing's already made. It's never gonna it's gonna be a lot of work rather than if you got it right the first time.
Does everybody have to agree on a song before you go with it?
No, not necessarily, but I mean, really, that kind of decision is really almost. Anything's kind of up for grabs, and lots of stuff's been recorded over time. Like even with the Meadowlands, it was maybe 20 songs, and then with maybe 16 or 18 recorded, and then a couple were abandoned right away, and then it was like, less than that, and however many are on the final record. I can't even remember, 13, 15,
yeah.
I don't know, 12. But by the time you get into the end, then it's really it's pretty democratic. By the time you're like, hey, I think this is the final version of the song, I think we're done here or whatever, there's not too much discrepancy by that point. Because usually you've made your point by just the song coming out this way. You're, in the early part you can be like, no, let's record this anyhow because I think I want to dabble with this.
How do you bring a song to the band? I mean, is it a situation where like you have an idea about what
deliver them in black sedans.
Do you have them sort of an idea about what it is how you want it to hear and like parts and stuff, or does everybody kind of come up with their own part, like hear what the sketch that you have and then kind of come up?
That's kind of cheap. That's what I was saying before. Like if you actually talk about the real stuff, like the real answers to these things are so boring. But it's also that it's changing. Like, you don't last being a band 20 years by sticking to the same formula all
Right.
the time. So our formula up to the Meadowlands was one thing, and then the Meadowlands kind of became its own thing. And then in an effort to never have to make a Meadowlands again, we were like, okay, we're going to change all these things, including chiefly the way that we work, and even like the equipment that we have, and how we play, and the website, and everything. But the irony being that it took so long to get all that work done, now it took another 5 or 6 years.
Right.
So, at one time it had been like, bring the song in and hope it comes together in the basement, and especially more for those guys, because with my job being the recording thing, or it had been at one time, it was easier for me to like demo something out and see if parts work, because I could physically, or just technically get, tracks to work on the tape or whatever, and just like, oh, this guitar part will work with this song, and then it seems more like a finished song. It makes the argument more convincing than just like,
listen what's in my head. Yeah,
yeah,
Right.
like you're busking in the basement.
So
But the difference being that Kevin now is demoing, and Greg also demoing into a computer, because so much technology has changed. It's so much easier. It's just a mic into an interface, and now into a Mac and GarageBand, and then a couple of different programs and whatever. So now that he doesn't necessarily have to rely on, geez, I hope Jerry gives it the thumbs up, and or that everyone comes up with a part in that 120-minute period that the song's on the table. Now he can no, this song feels right when I play it on an acoustic guitar. So I can demo it, and I can overdub piano, and I can double the acoustic guitar, and I can put on my own backup vocal, and actually kind of flesh the song out for real, because we're not songwriters. This isn't brill building stuff. We're making records, for better or worse.
Yeah.
And the record is the thing, the recorded stuff. That's much more like making paintings than talking about a song. Like, it isn't going to be in sheet music where like that kind of stuff. You're not really writing songs in a way. You're making records. But the way you used to work, and the way most bands work, is you bring the song into the basement and hope that it works. But you're not. It's kind of unfair almost, because you slave away on the song, but it's not really about just the chords and the melody, Beatles style, up in your bedroom like you wrote. All that probably doesn't make any sense, and I'm gonna continue working on beer number 2.
So, what?
Cling! Oh no!
So,